When morning finally broke through the storm clouds, illuminating our small tent with pale light, reality crashed back in with brutal force. We lay there, spent and silent, the weight of what we'd done pressing down on us. Neither of us spoke as we dressed and began packing up our gear. The discovery of my backpack at the bottom of the slope, miraculously intact, felt like a cruel joke, the universe's way of reminding us how unnecessary our transgression had been. Jason's attempt to humor about my fall only highlighted the absurdity of our situation. Back home, we retreated into separate silences, avoiding each other's calls and messages. 8 days passed in this strained limbo, each of us grappling with our own guilt and confusion. When we finally did reconnect, it was with careful neutrality, as if we were tiptoeing around a fragile peace treaty. Conversations skirted around the elephant in the room, focusing instead on mundane details of work and family. Yet beneath the surface, I could feel the unresolved tension simmering, waiting for its moment to boil over again. Now, as we prepare for another climbing trip, I find myself staring at my sleeping bag, memories of that night playing on endless loop in my mind. The question haunts me, should I leave it behind? The rational part of me knows better, understands the danger inherent in repeating such reckless behavior. But another part, the part that remembers the warmth of Jason's touch and the depth of our connection, whispers seductive possibilities. The internal conflict is exhausting, tearing at the fabric of my carefully constructed reality. Each piece of gear I pack becomes a symbol of my indecision. The flashlight represents clarity, the first aid kit caution, the extra food preparation. But the sleeping bag, that simple rectangle of nylon and down, has become the embodiment of my moral dilemma. I can't help but wonder if Jason is experiencing similar doubts, if he too is questioning the nature of our friendship and what it might become. The thought of facing him again, of seeing in his eyes the same mixture of desire and uncertainty I feel, fills me with both anticipation and dread. As I sit here, staring at my gear spread across the floor, I realize this decision goes beyond mere equipment choices. It's about confronting the truth of who I am and what I want. Do I value our long-standing friendship enough to protect it from potential ruin? Or am I willing to risk everything for the possibility of something more profound? The answer, I suspect, will reveal itself when I'm standing on that mountainside again, looking into Jason's eyes and deciding whether to unzip my pack or let it remain closed. The storm outside has passed, leaving behind a crystalline stillness that mirrors the clarity settling over my thoughts. I've come to understand that our experience wasn't just about physical intimacy or survival. It was about acknowledging a fundamental truth about human connection. Sometimes, relationships evolve in ways we can't predict or control, and fighting against that natural progression only leads to greater pain. Jason and I have shared something rare and precious, something that transcends labels or societal expectations. Looking ahead, I see our future not as a return to normalcy, but as an opportunity to redefine what normal means for us. Perhaps we'll continue exploring these new dimensions of our relationship, embracing the complexity and beauty of what we've discovered. Or maybe we'll find that our bond is strongest when viewed through the lens of deep friendship, with occasional moments of something more. Either way, I've learned that true courage isn't about adhering to predetermined paths. It's about having the strength to forge your own, even when the terrain is uncertain. As I finish packing my gear, I smile at the irony of it all. What started as a simple climbing trip has become a journey of self-discovery, forcing me to confront fears and desires I'd kept buried for years. The mountains have always been my sanctuary, a place where I could escape life's complications. Now, they've become something more, a crucible where relationships are tested and transformed, where friendships can blossom into something deeper and more meaningful. And as I prepare to meet Jason at our usual trailhead, I realize I'm no longer afraid of what might happen next. Whatever path we choose to take, we'll face it together, with honesty and open hearts. The morning of our next climb arrived with a crispness that hinted at winter's approach. The sky was a brilliant blue, the kind that promises clear weather but carries a bite in the air. Jason and I met at the trailhead, exchanging awkward smiles and tentative greetings. Neither of us mentioned the previous trip, but the weight of it hung between us like an invisible thread, tugging gently at our thoughts. I had decided to bring my sleeping bag this time, partly as a gesture of trust, and partly because I needed to prove to myself that I could handle the responsibility. The first few hours of the ascent were quiet, the silence punctuated only by the sound of our boots crunching against the rocky trail. We fell into our usual rhythm, but there was a new awareness between us, a subtle shift in the dynamic that neither of us could ignore. When we stopped to rest near a small stream, Jason finally broke the silence. "You know," he began, his voice hesitant, "I've been thinking a lot about what happened." I nodded, my throat tight with anticipation. "Me too," I admitted, staring at the water as it trickled over smooth stones. "It's been complicated." Jason sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't regret it," he said finally, his words soft but firm. "But I also don't want to lose what we have. You're one of the most important people in my life, Mark. That hasn't changed." His honesty caught me off guard, and I felt a lump rise in my throat. "I feel the same way," I replied, meeting his gaze. "But I think we need to figure out what this means for us. Are we okay with letting things evolve naturally, or do we try to go back to how things were?" Jason leaned back against a tree, his expression thoughtful. "I think we owe it to ourselves to explore this," he said after a moment. "Not recklessly, but openly. If we keep pretending it didn't happen, it'll eat away at us. But if we acknowledge it and give ourselves permission to feel whatever comes next, maybe we'll find something even stronger." His words resonated deeply with me, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. For the first time since that fateful night, I allowed myself to imagine a future where Jason and I could navigate this new chapter together. It wouldn't be easy, and there would undoubtedly be challenges ahead, but the prospect of facing them side by side gave me hope. As we continued our climb, the conversation shifted to lighter topics, and the tension between us began to ease. By the time we reached our destination, a secluded alpine lake surrounded by towering peaks, we were laughing and joking like old times. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, and we set up camp with a sense of renewed camaraderie. That night, as we settled into our respective sleeping bags, I felt a profound sense of peace. The storm within me had subsided, replaced by clarity and acceptance. Whatever the future held for Jason and me, I knew we would face it together with honesty and courage. And as I drifted off to sleep, I realized that the mountains had once again worked their magic, not just on our bodies, but on our hearts. In the weeks that followed our second trip, Jason and I found ourselves navigating uncharted territory. Our conversations became more open, more vulnerable, as we slowly peeled back the layers of our friendship to reveal the deeper connection that had always been there. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt, moments when old fears threatened to resurface, but we faced them head-on, determined to honor the bond we shared. What struck me most was how much our experience had taught me about the nature of relationships. True intimacy isn't just about physical closeness. It's about trust, vulnerability, and a willingness to embrace change. Jason and I had spent years building a foundation of friendship, and while our recent journey had tested that foundation, it had ultimately strengthened it. We had learned to see each other not just as friends, but as partners in a broader sense. Partners in adventure, in growth, and in understanding. The mountains, too, have played their part. They have been our backdrop, our challenge, and our teacher. Through them, we had discovered not only the limits of our endurance, but also the depths of our connection. The storms we faced, both literal and metaphorical, had forced us to confront truths we might otherwise have avoided. And in doing so, they had shown us the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of nature. As I reflect on everything that has transpired, I am reminded of a quote I once read. The best journeys answer questions you didn't even know to ask. Jason and I embarked on what we thought would be a simple climbing trip, but it turned into something far greater, a journey of self-discovery, of redefining friendship, and of embracing the unknown. And while the road ahead may still hold uncertainties, I know that as long as we face them together, we will find our way. For now, the mountains call to us once more. Another trail awaits, another summit beckons. And as I lace up my boots and shoulder my pack, I do so with a heart full of gratitude for the friend beside me, for the lessons we've learned, and for the endless possibilities that lie ahead. Whatever happens next, I am ready.